Welcome to the HVAC Financial Freedom Podcast, a show to help you create more revenue, profit, and freedom in your life. Now your host, John Victoria.
Alrighty, hello and welcome everyone to the HVAC Financial Freedom Podcast. My name is John Victoria, your host, and today I am very excited for our two guests that we are bringing on today. These guys have been on the fast track to building a very successful HVAC company in Kentucky, and I'm so impressed because from one of our conversations, the oldest person in their company is one of the owners at 30 years old. And so, I think that there is a new change coming in the industry, and I'm very excited to hear all they have to share and also how they got on the fast track to growing such a big company. And so the two gentlemen in question will be Zach and Dalton of Air Support Kentucky, and super excited to have them on board. So let me bring them on. Welcome, gentlemen. How are you guys?
How's it going, Moo?
Awesome. Yeah, so super excited. So I guess just to kick it off, you guys grew so quickly over the first few years. So could you talk just like where are you guys at right now in terms of revenue? How's the size of the team and like what's the service area you guys are focused in on?
Yeah, so right now our revenue where we're tracking to be, so we actually really opened doors in October 22. So it hasn't even been a complete year yet. We're on track to hit 1.5 to 2 mil our first complete year. If you go year to year, of course, on our fiscal year. And we're next year after that, we're in target to hit about 3. Our goal is 50 million in 5 years, and Zach can kind of explain more on that. But we have really big ambitions, and we came right up the gate, kind of swinging hard, hitting hard.
Yeah, as far as the other part to your question, the service area, pretty much cover anywhere from E-Town, Louisville to Lexington. I currently live in the Fayette County market, Dalton, the Jeffersonville, east end of Louisville area. But we're still kind of in, I guess, our stages growth. 90% of our work is still the east end of Louisville. Pretty much anything we do in Lexington is done by word of mouth. We don't spend any money in marketing here. Obviously, all of our marketing dollars reside in Louisville. I know we peaked throughout the 50 million mark in 5 years. Obviously, there's no, I know that's kind of a very specific number, but once we hit the 50, there's really no brake pedal on that. Obviously, we understand that be able to do 50 million in Louisville is pretty much unheard of, but we're going to be a little blunt. And obviously, we're part still market. Hopefully, in the next few years, if all goes well, but growth has been kind of I guess, a rapid thing for us. So it's kind of like, we really didn't start seeing any growth until we hit really February, March, before it was kind of a scramble. So it's been pretty fun since.
Awesome. So I guess just two questions I wanted to double click into. So first, why 50? Why not 40? Why not 60? Like why specifically 50? Like what's the story behind that number?
I don't know if there really is one. It's kind of and now that we look at it, I think 50 is just such a big number that you hear from, we both came from very big companies, came from big outfits. 50 was just kind of that magical number. And I think a lot of that is kind of geared towards the market you're in. I think, 50 is kind of an unheard market number. In the Louisville market, I would say there's probably only 2 contractors, maybe 3 that even scratch that in that area. But now that we look at it, it's people might think we're crazy, but it's a very achievable number in 5 years. I think.
Yeah. The other thing to add on that too is we don't plan on just sticking to HVAC. So we do plan on going multi-trade, and that is going to be one of the ways that we get to that goal.
That's awesome. So multi-trade and also you see companies in your market who are somewhat scratching up against it. So it's like, wow, this is an actual possibility. And I also love that it is such a big goal. There's a great book. It's called 10x is easier than 2x. And the premise behind it is that by having such a big goal, it simplifies the number of paths to get there. And so it's actually counterintuitively easier to set a bigger goal than to set a smaller goal. So I absolutely love that. And and I guess the other thing I wanted to double click into was you said there's something around February, March. Like what happened around that time? Was it a seasonal thing? Was it something like, the magic internally within the company? Like we finally figured out like what happened that caused that surge in growth that you were talking about?
Yeah, so I'll kind of start on that first, and Zach, if you want to add anything to it. So we started, we were just completely word of mouth at first. So we started with a very, very low amount of money from side jobs, actually. So we're not funded by anyone, we're not backed by anyone. It was just we both had jobs at other companies, and we were kind of doing some side work on the side to kind of build up a little bit of a nest egg. Wasn't much; it was like less than 20 grand, something like that. So it's not a lot of money. So we started extremely lean. So all the original calls that we ran were all self-generated. So either through Facebook, Facebook groups are really lucrative for us. Just word of mouth in general, people we know, those kind of relationships. Zach's really good at networking. And then what we really had to do a lot of was some door knocking. Zach and I got humbled up pretty quickly when bills are due, and we got to find a way to make money. So we went to a bunch of communities, we door knocked, the door slammed in our face, the whole 9 yards of it. And really that's what kind of motivated us. Okay, we got to keep going, keep pushing. If we can get through this, we can generate some revenue this way. We can just definitely do it once a market. And we waste a ton of money on marketing out the gate. I don't even want to say how much. We're on our third or fourth website now. And we're still not even a year in business. We just spent a ton of money out of the gate on marketing, kind of firing on all cylinders, and we kind of figured out what we can do. And now we're at a point where it's a little bit more fine tuned. And then of course it is a seasonal business. So April is kind of when we first got our hot streak. So anyone in the trade is going to get a phone call then. But we really dialed in our marketing is kind of the biggest thing that made that big jump.
Awesome. And then Zach, same perspective on that. Was that the same ingredients that you were seeing on your end?
The biggest thing that we can learn, Dalton bring two very different aspects of the industry. They Dalton, they're very, very, very strong tech. It's not my wheelhouse. I know enough to be dangerous, but it's not a strong tech. So it's kind of humbling to see, because at the end of the day, you can be the best tech in the world, you can be the best networker in the world. If you can't market, probably it's a simple equation. So I think the biggest, we went through like a little series out the gate, where our Google actually had to have an attorney to get our Google back. So Google's the necessary evil, right? So, it's, so that kind of held us up a little bit. And it's, I don't know, marketing is like the Weather Channel, 50% of them are accurate, 50% are shoot fish in a barrel. So it's trying to understand, and I don't know. I think we have it navigated. That's a whole different wheelhouse. I don't really know. We know what's working now. Obviously, we contract everything. We're literally on every single piece of marketing separate from it. So obviously, that's it's not that. I guess the mentality kind of like the car mechanic. Anybody can do it, but who's good at it? Hard to navigate that road. Spend a lot of money to learn.
Yep.
Which we
Yeah.
did.
If you spend a lot of money, you'll learn quick. You're bleeding. Yeah, right. You're bleeding. Like, okay, I gotta figure this out.
Right.
Love that. And I guess just I'd love to also dig in as well, because you guys came so fast out of the gate, and also at your ages as well. I've spoken to so many owners who have been in the game for 10, 20 years, and they're having a tough time cracking that 7-figure mark. And I'm always just curious, like the psychology and like the backgrounds of the people that are able to break through quickly, and those that it seems like there's something that's not like catching. And so, could you speak to that, maybe especially for the younger guys who are listening? Maybe they're want to start up their company, or maybe they've started and they're looking to get inspired. What would you say to them, like to achieve like the fast run rate or the growth that you guys have seen in less than a year?
I mean, in my perspective, it's all grind and hustle. I mean, we know a lot of people, we network very, very well. But we realize the quicker we get it done now is the quicker we're coming out of the truck. Enjoy the actual aspects of life. I like business stress. I don't like the financial business stress. Like Dalton was saying, we started our business with $13,000. Um, and then the other piece of it, where we're very very fortunate, no debt in our business. So the ability to grow is awesome because we went almost 8 months without a paycheck, where we literally just added fuel to the business, and it wasn't fun, but we understood that there's a bigger picture. I think the industry, what a lot of people see where they mess up is you get these really busy summers. These people go out and they buy all these nice toys, they run behind on the parts house bill, and they're focused less on the business idea and focused more on the fact I'm making 25 grand a week, clearing shovels in the box. You got to bank that money. You don't know what the economy is going to do. Obviously, right now the economy is in great shape. Regardless of your political views, it's just reality. It's right in our face. Uh, and if you don't bank for the slower seasons, you're just not going to grow. Or you're ultimately may not have a business left.
Awesome. How about you, Dalton?
Yeah, I'll expand on that a little bit too. I know you were mentioning kind of like what's the difference between like a 6-figure or 7-figure contractor. And I think a lot of it has to do with kind of the perspective on the industry. When I first started turning wrenches, and I'll kind of talk about a little bit of the technician side, kind of more on the business side of it too. But having that perspective from a technician to your guys in, Zach and I are really good at maximizing when we're in the house. So it doesn't take very many leads. We ran in 1 month, we spent, I think, $6,000 in pay-per-click, ran 4 leads and made $20,000 in revenue. So it doesn't take a whole lot for us to convert. And that's what a lot of contractors miss out on. They're burning through these leads, and leads are extremely expensive, as we know, unless you've been in the game 15, 20 years and you have a whole kind of word of mouth, you've been in the town for a while, good old boy system kind of thing. You're paying a lot of money for these leads, and we found that out. So one of the most important things is maximizing on the leads. The problem is a lot of guys come from a very genuine place. Like, hey, I don't want to rip people off. I don't want to overcharge. I don't want to do this. What it turns out being, especially in our trade, if you're not doing a full system inspection of the house, you're not in the house for at least an hour on the service call minimum, system inspection closer to 2 hours. If you're not doing the due diligence, you're actually doing the customer a disservice. It's a lot of people don't understand. If I got to return to that customer more than once in the same 6 months, even, I'd miss something. There's something I probably did wrong, or when my text is wrong. So when you're in the house, really going through and checking, because the reality of it is, this is on the HVAC School podcast, and it was Jim Bergen and Brian Orr. They were talking about a little bit. 9 out of 10 systems have an existing issue in them. If you include duct leakage, that goes up to 10 out of 10 systems. So are the technicians leaving them that way, or are they fixing those issues? Because your clients pay, calling you because they have a problem. If you're leaving with a $99 service fee and a capacitor, you're not fixing all their issues. Maybe they don't want to spend the money on them. A lot of them have no idea what's wrong. They don't know 30% of their air is leaking into their attic. They don't know that their filtration system isn't working. They're getting mold inside their cabinet. So a lot of the technicians just don't have a good, thorough process. And I think that's really what ends up separating the 6-figure contractors that are just kind of paying themselves versus the guys who are really growing, is they understand that there's a whole process that needs to be done inside the house. That's where Zach and I feel like we do really well, is we maximize on our opportunities, because again, they're expensive. But that's kind of the biggest difference that I see.
Gotcha. Yeah, just making the most out of what you got, because it's like, there's more. It seems like in all markets, there's more players that are coming in, whether that's private equity or whether there's these bigger players with these huge marketing budgets, and just how do you make the most out of what you already got? It's not always about new. It's about, okay, how do we take care of what we currently have, whether that's the opportunity in front of us or even some of our past customers. And then to what you said, Zach, I love it's like this idea of sacrifice of, short-term versus long-term gratification, right? It's like, do I want the paychecks now? Do I want the pretty toys? Do I want to be able to flex? HVAC paid for it, like that sort of deal. Like, I got all these things, or do I want to put those funds back into the business to grow? And maybe, I know one thing that you guys mentioned before, in a previous call was, bring on the right team as well. And so being able to pay them. So could you speak to that as well? Cause it's not just you two guys, like there's more people on your team. Could you talk about maybe like the first few hires that you made, and I guess like how you brought them on into the company?
Yeah, so we work with the guys. So Zach, how many years have you been in the trade for?
Since college, so yeah, 12. So, man, that age is 11 years, 12 years.
Okay. Yeah, he's got 11 years, and I'm sure out of high school. I'm 23, so um, 6 years for me. And so for us, we both worked at other companies, and one of the most important things we found is obviously building those relationships while you're at other companies because you learn and meet a whole lot of really good techs, and you know who are the not so great techs. So just knowing the people and kind of having them in your circle. All the guys that we work with currently who are employed by us, we've worked with them before, so we've got to get a really good grasp on their level of quality, their ethics, and just their overall performance. So that's the really big part there. Obviously, we want to hire guys who are clean cut. We really believe in the image side of the industry. We're not going to hire someone who's 400 pounds overweight. Is what it is. It affects their performance in a home. You're not going to be trustworthy if your beard's all grown out, mangly. If you need to be a clean cut, sharp image, and that's kind of the audience that we sell to, our ideal client, they expect that. So we hire people who are in line with that, people who work out. So everyone on our team goes to the gym, 3 to 5 days a week. It's another thing. So just kind of finding the people who are already self-driven and then just kind of being that lending hand to help them get to that next level is where we've seen some success there.
How about you, Zach? Anything else that you felt was missing? So it seems like guys you've worked with in the past, similar work ethic, going to the gym together, it shares like, hey, physical fitness, that excellence in body was a key thing.
I would prefer guys that haven't been in the industry 40 years, and I know this might trample on what 99% of contractors say, and it's not that I have a jab at those people, but we want guys that, we're air support. We're not our competitors. We want jobs done our way. Everybody does it differently. We have a certain standard, and it's a lot easier to teach a new dog tricks than it is an old dog. Uh, and it's not that the way they may do it may be awesome, but it's a lot better to be able to grow guys into, Peterman Brothers, they do this aspect really well. They turn guys around with 60 leagues awards. So obviously Chad's got to figure it out. We kind of had that same philosophy on, we prefer a guy that's been in the trade a year and a half that we can mold because at the end of the day, HVAC is not rocket science. It's not, you're not performing brain surgery. So that's kind of really the only thing I got to add. As far as the pay side is pretty much you get what you get. I won't dive into the specific numbers on how we pay the guys, but the more they perform, the more they make. If you were to sit down with our guys, they're more than. I'll be very transparent. Both of our guys will make one will clear 6 figures, a healthy 6 figures. The other one can touch, which
Wow.
is almost unheard of. And they're not. We don't kill them. We literally got to beg them really to work on the weekends. So it's the guys are treated well, but I think a lot of people don't understand when you get into this side of business with blue collar guys, money's great, but it's not corporate. 90% of blue collar guys aren't driven by money. They want to go home, they want to see their wives, they want to see their kids, they crack a beer, get on their side by sides or whatever their hobbies may be. But for the most part, it's culture. Guys, that's where Dalton really shines in this industry. Dalton doesn't ask his guys to do anything that he would not do. Might be the worst crawl. Dalton would be the first guy in there. It's a level of respect. It's not a guy pushing rule policies down your throat with you. And I think that's where we shine because pretty much I would say 50% of our market now is private equity. And, it's this whole idea of you're going to follow these rules A to Z, whether you like it or not. And if you got a problem with it, hit the road, then private equity is the spot they're in. Sorry, private equity, if you watch this podcast, it's just reality.
That's true. I love what you said. It's leading from the front. It's if I'm gonna ask you to do something, then I'm also willing to do that. And I feel that builds a lot of confidence in a team rather than this, I'm sitting in my mighty chair and everyone do as I say because I'm paying you. And that might have worked out in corporate, 10, 20, 30 years ago. But I feel as well like the new generation of the workforce is very different. And it sounds like those are also the guys who you're attracting as well in that, I don't know, 20s, 20s range is what it sounds like.
You know,
Um, in terms of attracting, the newer workforce? Are there other things? So you talked about work-life balance, pay is important, but maybe not a primary contributor. Having, great, leaders who are willing to lead from the front. Is there anything else that if you were advising someone who wanted to attract more team members who were, in that age range, like what other things could be good to, bring them on board to the company?
Yeah, one of the things that we're doing, that's more so on the service, it looks like it's just marketing, but it's more so for attracting good talent. Is we're doing a lot of social media posting, and what that really helps us with. So we do a lot of educational videos. So it is partially for the clients, but a lot of it's for attracting guys who are in our area to us, because either you're going to vibe with the content and materials that we're putting out, or you're not. And if you're not vibing with it, you don't like what we're putting out, because we're putting out here are our standards. Our standards exceed most of the industry standards. This is the way we do our jobs. This is why we do our jobs this way. If we get guys who are butting heads on that, oh, I've been doing it 15 years this way, you don't need to do it like that. You're a typical guy. We don't want that guy. We want someone who's like, okay, I love this. You guys take a lot of pride in your work. It attracts prideful guys who are really careful. Because the reality is, if you're a service tech in our industry, the last thing you want to do is work for a company that's got really, really terrible, low quality installs. You don't get paid on those. Those are non-opportunity calls. You're just making your hourly, your base pay. So you want to come to a place that really emphasizes the importance of high quality installs, low number of callbacks. And that's what we want to attract. But with that, all the social media that we're posting, we location tag everything. So it's more likely to pop up on your feed, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. So we're on all the platforms, and we've been getting a lot of just attention. Yeah, we've been getting some viral posts here and there, but a lot of it's been guys in the supply house, talking, hey, I watched your video, or hey, I've seen your video. And that's what we're kind of after with that, is the whole culture building there.
That's awesome. And you're like, no big deal. We went viral like once or twice, no biggie. That's awesome. And what would a typical video look like? So could you give me like an example? Like, oh, this is what we would create, and like this was a great piece.
Yeah, so typically it'll just be us out on a job. Let's say we're installing a media filter. We'll explain, this is why we're installing the media filter this way. These are the benefits of it. This is how it helps the client, and this is how it makes a better install. So it's kind of a quick, we try to keep all the videos under 60 seconds, kind of for the algorithms of everything. It's just a quick little explanation. We'll talk about maybe flow and nitrogen in another video, just kind of best practices. Here's what we do. Here's why. And it's kind of gives us a professional edge over our competition in our market, because there's not a single competitor doing that right now. Even if they do, we're far ahead of them with how much content we put out. But then the other side too is, of course, attracting that good talent.
That's awesome. Now, and I've seen a lot of accounts, Instagram accounts, and most of them are the marketing is a different focus. Like most of it is like, hey, here's my special, here's my promo, happy Labor Day. And it's very like corporate, it's like an image. You don't feel the life of the company, but it sounds like you just have a completely different angle. Like it's like almost it's a different like target market you're trying to serve. It's not necessarily the customer. Maybe the customer will enjoy that, but it's more for other people who are seeing, which is a very unique angle, it sounds. Um, that's awesome. And any thoughts on that, Zach, from your perspective?
I mean, not really hit it right on the head. I mean, a lot of it is, it's just unorthodox, right? From the day I've been in the industry to now, everything I do is unorthodox compared to what everybody else does in the industry. And I think at this point, it's just different, and people like different, and it's, there's a level of trust that comes with that difference too. Obviously, is, from a hiring standpoint, it, you can boast your work online. You run the risk of getting berated, literally. That's the nicest way I could put it. And there's a level of trust that comes with that. I'm confident in what I do. My stuff looks good. I'm happy with it. I know it's done right. I'll post it all over social media, wherever the case may be. If you don't do good work, you're running behind bad work, you're not doing that. So I think you get the psychological aspects of that stuff. It's just a level of trust, and people want to be a part of that, because it makes everybody else's life easier.
Awesome. Cool. And I guess on that, you mentioned about performance pay. And I remember from our previous conversation, how important that was as well. Like it's not just, hey, it's a flat pay and then from there we're good. Could you maybe, talk a little bit more about how you don't have to get specific numbers, but just like how, like what are some of those things that are being incentivized to make sure that, the quality is to the standard that you guys are looking for? Like how is that entire, I guess, incentive system set up?
Yeah, exactly. Essentially in our market, there's two ways people are getting paid right now. You're either hourly plus spiff or commission, or you're a complete crew pay. Yeah, in the install world, they're doing a lot of crew pay now. That's kind of where I think the industry is heading, which is a percentage of the job total. So let's say a job sells for $10,000, crew pay 7%. $700 is split between the lead and installer on some kind of split. So that's how a lot of the companies are starting to do it, or they're still hourly and they're still doing overtime and they're doing bonuses, stuff like that. So we're doing on the percentage side. The biggest problem that I've seen with this, I worked with a company that was like that, is the install quality was awful because you're incentivizing these guys to get off the job as quick as possible because they're making more money on the hour. So the way you combat that, I kind of ripped this off Tommy Mello from A1 Garage Doors. Uh, they have categorized ways that they pay. So ours is a sliding scale percentage. I won't get into what the exact numbers look like on that, but they're based on 5 KPIs. I think if you have too many, it gets kind of overwhelming. But on our install 5, there's 5 core KPIs that we base that off of, and you have to be within range on every single one of them, or you get dipped down. So it's a sliding scale commission percentage, and all of this motivates our techs. So through pay structure, those KPIs, we motivate them to market for us, to help advertise, get our name out there, motivate them to do a higher quality craftsmanship job, get good reviews. So all this is part of the pay structure. And then on our service side, we have a kind of a blend between his services could a little bit more seasonal, a little bit more of a high and low dip. On our service end of it, we do a base plus a commission, and same thing on there. It's completely based on those same KPIs. So incentivizing that through pay is what we figured out makes the difference. Because the problem is if you stick to just hourly, you're not really motivating them to be efficient at their job. You're not really motivating them to do more work, be more productive. And then if you do the just percentage way with no type of structure behind that, you're incentivizing them to do a quick, low quality job. So we found the hybrid. I think we found the hybrid between that. Obviously, we'll figure out the pains as we grow with that. Tommy Mello, he talks about it a lot on his podcast, and that's kind of where that whole thing came from. I really liked it. And if I'm a guy in the field, I'm thinking about how do I want to get paid? What would motivate me? And that's exactly how we came up.
It's awesome. Yeah, and it really creates a win-win, right? It's for the customer, it's great. For the installer, it's great, but also for the company, it's great because it's maintained at the proper standard. Um, that's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. And then, Zach, any other thoughts on the incentive pay structure?
I mean, I would say pay structure kind of plays along with engagement, right? It's get rid of the big joke on the boss all the time that they're on the jobs all the time that don't call dad. But I'm the first guy to blurt out, "I'm not your dad." We try to run our company like we're not owners, like we're employees. And I think that's the biggest thing when you get into the pay side too is, you know, you you incentivize these guys to go the extra mile. At the ultimate end of the day, as a business owner, it may sound greedy, but your goal is you want your guys to go the extra mile for you because, you know, if you got a late install on a Friday night, you want to keep spirits high. I mean, we're fortunate on our guys that it'd be midnight and we're still on a job. People are laughing, joking. And that's, I think a lot of that's created from that pay structure. And, you know, like I said, it just comes down to incentives, I think Dalton needs you recapped and covered it pretty well.
Cool. So it sounds like the combo of the incentives and pay structure, plus how you hired in the beginning. There's the marketing as well as leading from the front. That's like almost a good mix of what created the culture. Is there anything else you thought that was missing? That was like, oh, this is something that's key that we do that really helps build culture in the company. I think you mentioned gym earlier, so I don't know. Maybe you guys go to hit the gym, lift some iron together, or anything else that you guys do?
Yeah, we
I
definitely
got,
have.
I go to gyms. I got a Dunkin' Donuts addiction. Dunkin' Donuts. But I don't know. I mean, like Dalton said in the past, I think when you're in there in the trenches with your guys, we have a relationship with these guys. Dalton's got a lot of respect in the industry. So I think there's, you know, if your guys are happy at your company, bringing on talent is easy. I don't, there, in my opinion, there's no shortage in the industry. All that's BS. I think it's, talent follows talent. So if you have really good talent, they come in a pack and burn that bridge, especially in a small town. And Kentucky's not huge by any means. We're not San Antonio, we're not Los Angeles. Um, you burn your bridge, where it gets around. We know a few companies that could explain that very well. But talent follows talent. I mean, people know who does good work. Like Dalton said, service techs do not want to run behind bad installs because they're taking the brunt of it from the customer, not getting paid on it. 9 times out of 10, they got to fix it. The whole philosophy if you pay installers and before you make them techs and you make them installers, that stuff will come to a screeching halt.
Love that. Love that. Cool. And I guess from here, I'd love to shift the conversation to your partnership, right? So, I guess like how you guys. I mean, it sounds like you guys worked together in the past. I think my questions would be around like building a successful partnerships because I've seen, I've heard, many folks who had a partnership and because this or that, we didn't talk about this or that, or personality conflicts that can be a challenge on an ongoing basis. And so, for someone who is thinking about getting or building a partnership because you guys have strengths that like inversely you don't have. And so it sounds like you're a nice pair together. And so when it comes to partnerships, any advice that you'd give to someone who's looking to get into it?
I think a lot of it's just you got to know your business partner. And at the end of the day, I don't care what anybody says, no matter how close, how good friends you are, you're going to butt heads. You're going to disagree on things. That's just life. And I think the biggest piece of advice I can recommend, I can tell you right now, I'm probably one of the hardest guys to get along with. Me, very stubborn. I'm very set in my ways. I'm incredibly patient. Um, but if you don't, at the end of the day, partnership, in my opinion, is focused on one thing, and that's a goal. If you don't have the same goals, you don't have the same, 10-year goal, 15-year goal, 20-year goal. It doesn't matter how long or how well you get along initially. There will be no value in that partnership. People could say, "Oh, we were best friends for 25 years." That's all great, but like if I was 50% in on the investing side, as far as let's hold off on some of the marketing, this would never work. Uh, we're both. There's one thing at the end of the day, no matter what we disagree on, fight on, both have no loss. It's 100 miles an hour full throttle, and without a set goal between the two, it just doesn't work.
Yep. Align goals. And Dalton, how about you?
Yeah, what I'd add to that too is, like Zach said, the goal, mutual interest, I think holds any partnership together so much more than any type of written contract could in the world. So having that, we both have the exact same goals. We both know where we want to be. The end goal in mind is extremely important. And then the other part too is I think when you find a partnership, you almost want them to be an opposite person. You don't want, a lot of people are, their closest circle are people who just like, and maybe a technician in the field is what we see a lot of. Technician in the field finds another really good tech. They're really confident. They know nothing on the interpersonal side, the communication side. So that's where Zach and I kind of bring really good dynamics to the industry. And as a partnership, he's a networking genius. I mean, he can talk to anyone, find anyone, get any contact, and he's been exponentially valuable. If you look on paper on the technical side, he's not your strongest technical guy in the world, but you would be foolish not to partner with this guy, because you don't really realize the strengths of having that large circle and network. And I'm not that guy, but I am really good at the technical side. I can run guys, I can manage crews, I can manage jobs really well. So having kind of that yin and yang together helps. And we're both willing to learn each other's aspects too. So Zach is 10 times technician he ever was before, and I'm 10 times the networker I ever was before. So having that give and pull, the guys, having guys want to work and help each other. Zach's given me tons of ways to improve on my networking communication side. When I first met Zach actually interviewed me at the company I was working at, and I was 20 pounds lighter. I wouldn't look you in the eye. I was stuttering half my words. So all that stuff makes a really big difference. And then last thing I would say that really helps our partnership is our commitments. So if you got a family and you have kids, you have a lot of I could call it baggage. I could call it commitments. The reality is things that pull you away from the business. If you have a lot of that, that makes it a lot more stressful, a lot harder. Because at the end of the day, right now, Zach and I were both single guys. We're young. We don't have any kids. We don't have any baggage. We don't have any commitments. So that allows us to kind of put all of our energy towards the business. Where if one partner has a family, one doesn't, they're not going to understand that aspect of it. So of course we've talked about it too, with the partnership. Hey, if you get married, you get a girl, that prenup's happening. It's in our contract. So having
Hey,
that,
I'm with you, man.
yeah,
Prenup.
but having that stuff like talked about ahead of time, because that's going to be something. Obviously we don't want to be 60 hours a week every single week for the rest of our life in business. It's not the end goal, but we do want to go full throttle at it for at least the next 5 or so years. So obviously, as we start to kind of get some of those commitments added on, we're not going to be single guys the rest of our lives, or hopefully not. Zach's a wild card. I'll let him on that. But as these commitment goes on, it's important to have that communication about it. This is where we want to be. These are our goals, and this is how things could change in the future. And having all that kind of talked about up front, piled on to the mutual interest, the common goals, that's kind of what makes our partnership great. We do butt heads in some areas, and we don't always agree on everything. But at the end of the day, we both want the best for the company. We want to make the most amount of money. We want to be the most successful and the best of both. And we both have those exact same goals. So sometimes it kind of takes a little bit back and forth to show each other, hey, this is why I'm thinking this. But just having all that together is really what makes it a nice fluid partnership.
It's awesome. And as you guys were speaking, I was just watching both of your faces. Like as you were speaking, Dalton, how's Zach reacting, and then the reverse. And I could tell there's that synergy, there's that bond there, and just like I love that. And there's 3 traits I also wanted to point out you guys didn't mention. I think you guys have both of you have great self-awareness to be able to acknowledge like, hey, here's my strengths and here's my weaknesses and here's where the gaps need to be filled. I think on top of that, there's a humility that comes with that. Like, hey, I don't know everything. And a lot of folks they don't want to like they don't want to appear stupid or I don't know this or that, but you guys have that humility. And then third is that transparency of like, hey, this is what's going on and this is like how things are going right now. Um, I think those are 3 traits that both of you have that really helps out the relationship a lot. It's like building any relationship. Those are 3 key things to any good relationship. So love seeing that. Um, okay. And then any pitfalls you'd say? Like now that you're in the relationship, do you advising someone, is there anything that you'd say, wow, that's a complete red flag. You should not go forward on that partnership? Like how would you advise someone who's thinking about it? And there's like, don't do that. That's bad. Don't do that.
I'd say, I could go all night on this stuff. Uh, I mean, as a point, Tyler partnership doesn't make sense, right? So I think some people dive too deep into the partnership. I'd say a lot of businesses are built on partnership where one person brings basically a crap load of money to the table and the other person is basically a slave to the business. And, those are usually the partnerships that fail, because there's a point in time where, at the end of the day, a business is the only goal of business to make money, make money in business. And if you're a numbers guy and you're a numbers cruncher and bring the money to the table, your one focus is put the money back in my pocket as quick as we can. Let's grow it. And that's just not reality. You know, and I think the other issue that I see a lot of people doing in the industry is partner with people they don't know. And everything seems good on paper, but at the end of the day, it's not who you are when things are good. It's who you are. And how do you resolve those problems? Can't resolve together. That's one thing about me and Dalton is we do not see eye to eye on a lot of stuff. We butt heads probably 3 or 4 times a week. But we bring it up right away. It's resolved right away. That probably not going to like the conversation or the outcome. The reality is if there's no awkward silence or any of that, and I think there's a lot of, what's funny about my relationship with Dalton is I'm the first guy that I'll never speak highly of him to his face. But I do behind his back constantly. He'll tell you that. And it's not, it's just my competitive aspect, my competitive mindset. And I'm that way with all the guys as well. It's kind of like a competitive edge that, we don't need participation trophies here. You're either good at what you do or you suck. It is what it is. You know, how are you going to get better? And I think that a lot of people can't handle that mindset. It's just different. I mean, like I said, I could fill a notebook on the part and what works. And, I say my biggest piece, and I'll turn it over to Dalton, would be people get so money hungry. I grew up in money. Dalton and I have very different backgrounds on that. My family's done very well. But at the end of the day, money really holds no value. Sure, it's also one of the problems, but it's not here to happiness. It doesn't matter if I'm worth $100 million or I got $5 grand in my name. I am who I am at the end of the day. I'm still one of the cheapest guys, Dalton tell you. It's as cheap as it gets, but cheap in weird ways. But I think people let money change them. And at the end of the day, we're all going to end up 6 feet off the ground. Money comes and goes. People don't.
Dalton, how about you? Any red flags? The ones, hey, don't do it. It's a red flag. It's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I'd like to add that I guess has kind of helped, and not so much as a red flag, but being really transparent about what you personally didn't take home for the business. Because a lot of guys, they're not transparent about that up front. They will say it's a lower number. So Zach and I, when we opened doors, we didn't take a paycheck for the first 8 months. And we're very transparent about each other's personal finances, and maybe too much to the point where we might as well just be married at this point. We know everything about each other, right? But just having that clear expectation, like, hey, this is when we're going to start taking money. This is what we need to start paying ourselves. This is how we're going to do it, and the next step. So we never just start paying each other more, something like that, without consulting the other. So there's always that communication between each other. When we were first paying ourselves, we were paying ourselves what would be considered poverty. And that'd be a nice way to put it. We were paying ourselves almost pennies. So, and that was after 8 months of absolutely zero paycheck from the business. So having that in mind too, when you start out, when things are rough, what's that look like? Are you guys both in financially comfortable spots? Zach's got some age on me, so he's been able to build up a more personal nest egg, but we both were financially responsible for entering business with each other. If you have a partnership with someone who lives paycheck to paycheck, that's probably not going to work out, because when times get hard and you need to pay yourselves less or something like that, and that partner can't, there's going to be a lot of friction, a lot of heat there. So that's one of the things I'd say is really, really important, is being transparent about what someone has to make. And the other side too is, I'd say for most people, a partnership, I think, doesn't make too much sense. I think you're better off hiring your weaknesses as opposed to partnering and giving equity of a business towards that. I think Zach and I have just a really good relationship. It works for us, but I think for a lot of people, I could see how it's terrible. We know a lot of guys locally who have partnered up and they just fall flat on their face because it's just not about a contract that's going to hold their business. The contract's going to be about worthless. If someone wants to give up their effort and just stop working out entirely, you can't stop them from doing it. You can't force them to work. So having that all really upfront, transparent, knowing who you're going in business with. A lot of people like to see all the good sides, all the benefits, without really being realistic about who they are, what their history is like. Zach and I both have a track record of being the highest performers anywhere we've been. So partnering with someone like that who has that consistency, I think is really, really important.
And just, I guess, just to recap, compatibilities, it sounds like financially capable was one, lifestyle, place in life with commitments, fitness, and then vision. Hey, you guys are match made in heaven. Yeah. Can't think of anything else to add to that.
I had the gym rat he is, so I can't dive into that. I cook in the house. That's about it.
That's awesome. And I guess to transition from here, it sounds like you've had some really great mentors and people who poured into you in your life. Also, it sounds like, Tommy Mello's podcast was pretty big for you, Dalton. What was some of the mentors or the information or the groups that you were a part of that really helped to, keep you in the know and, keep your knowledge sharp? Because there's so much that's out there, right? And it can be overwhelming. But it sounds like you guys have that for you. Like, what would you say, like, really helped with the knowledge aspect of building the business? Aside from, of course, the direct experience with the companies, I think that was a huge piece. Anything else that you'd add on?
Yes, I'll start on that. at least on my end of it, I came from two failed parents, small businesses. So both my parents were entrepreneurs growing up. Both their businesses kind of fell flat. They didn't do too well. I got to see a lot of what not to do early on. But then kind of once you get in the trade, what I realized really quickly, like I said, I started my first week out of high school. And within 6 month period, I was making just as much as the other guys were. I've been doing it 3, 4 to 6 years. And I realized really quickly there's a quality level, there's a shift in what you're able to do just by applying yourself, putting your head into the books. So for me, at least from a business side, a lot of podcasts, just a lot of kind of observing how a business works. When you're an employee for a business is a great time to learn underneath someone else's wing. Zach did a really good job at a company we were at together before, kind of scaling the HVAC side up extremely quick. And that's where a lot of his experience comes from too. And I think just having that kind of, you almost have a playground when you work for someone else. When you're an employee, you have all the experience that you can get, but none of the inherent risk comes with that. But aside from that, on the podcast side, HVAC School Podcast, it's a big eye opener on the opportunities that are missed out in the house. Of course, Tommy Mel's podcast, I just think that guy's a genius. He's going to do amazing things in the garage door world. And then just kind of getting your hands on everything. There's a lot of fluff in our industry, a lot of fluff in the sales space, and kind of picking through what works for you and creating your own process. Because everywhere, a lot of us, we're not the first ones to do heating in their business, right? So we don't have to completely reinvent the wheel with it, but we can definitely make our own wheel work a little bit better for us. So for us, it's about picking the best things of every single business, kind of making it into a funnel, what's going to work for us long term, and how is that fluid. So kind of learn from other people's mistakes is a big part.
Awesome. And Zach, how about you?
I mean, I would say, kind of what to piggyback off what Dalton said. Dalton be the first guy to tell you, I'm not really big into the hype stuff. I'm not a podcast guy. I listen to podcasts all the time. Be like, do you listen to that? Yeah. He's like, I know you don't listen to it. It's not really me. I kind of have my own path, my own destiny. I'm probably the most stubborn individual you're ever going to come across. And it's, I don't know. I had the privilege at the company I was at before, where I kind of got the keys to the spaceship for the HVAC side. Got to kind of run with it, and we went basically $1 million, $7 million, like basically a year. Exploded. And that was the company I interviewed Dalton at, but I basically got to play business with somebody else's money, and I learned what didn't work, and that's kind of where, that was kind of a place where basically money was no option. It was how much more do you need? I'll write the check, which is great, but you learn what works and what doesn't work, and ultimately, I think a lot of owners get sidetracked by that idea of, grow, but you got to have pieces at the bottom that continue that growth. That very company that we're talking about is, they're hurt right now because of that very reason, because their culture is terrible. They let certain people in management that should never be leaders in a company, if you're not, ethical problems. Oh, yeah, I mean, that's kind of me. I have a few mentors in the industry. Actually, Justin Riley, he's been a huge success story. He's the owner of Rough Frog. He's like family to me, pretty much. Do saltwater fishing together. Just a great stand-up guy. And I think the problem with this industry is there's so many faces in the industry, and I'm not going to mention the names, but that put on a persona of what's not reality. And we got burned on that a couple of times out the gate. We learned our lesson. I think, there's a fine line you walk, and, but business is business at the end of the day. There's 25 methods for one resolution. They may all work, which one works best for you. Markets are different. I don't care what anybody says. Me and Dalton are 45 minutes from each other. Our markets are night. And if you don't understand markets, you're never going to be successful. So I think at the end of the day, business, like I said before, business, there's money in anything you do. Business is not hard to do. In my opinion, it's not hard to make money. Dedicate to your craft, be good at it, understand your people that follow that. And, at the end of the day, if your employees are happy, sky's the limit. People enjoy what they do. Not about the money when they come in on Monday morning. It's about, they feel like there's bigger picture than taking them a paycheck.
Love that. Yeah, they're actually building into a vision that's more than what someone individually can do. And I think it's a beautiful thing. And it seems like, especially for the new generation of workers, that's what we're clamoring for. Not to work in the same company for 30, 40 years. It's just mindless work.
Right.
Yeah. And I know you guys came out of corporate as well. So you're going to probably, it's like, yeah.
Yep.
So cool. The thing I also love to tell people, is that, our podcast or show, it's not entertainment, it's education. And that means that something has to be done as a result of it. So if you're to give like one action item for everyone who's listening, like what would you say to that person who's like thinking about making the leap, or someone who's trying to scale up their company? Like, what's that one action that they should take after listening to the podcast?
Mine's simple. Do it. Worst thing that happens, you gotta go back and get another job. Pull the trigger, write it out. If you got hustle and you got grind and you're a competitor, you'll be successful at the end of the day. Stay away from debt. Bad stuff. Stay away from
Yep. And I would just pretty much piggyback off of that. It's especially if you're younger and you're even considering it. If you fall on your face, you have time. The older you get, the harder and harder that gets. And of course, we talk about commitments. If I had a few kids and had a wife at home, I would be okay taking 8 months without a paycheck. So pulling that trigger immediately. And as far as an action item, and don't be afraid to create a long checklist, a process in your business that makes sure you're maximizing on every single opportunity. The amount of food that is left on the plate in our industry it's absurd. If you're technicians, or maybe you are tech right now and you're listening to this, if you're walking away with, I don't know, it depends on the market, of course, the dollar amount, but you're walking away with $300, $400 service tickets, you're doing the customer a service at the end of the day. And it's not so much about the dollar amount, but it's about, are you looking at more than just the exact part that's wrong on that day? And so creating a process, do that. If you don't have one already, you don't have some type of level of checklist, anything to go through, I think that's the most important.
Love it. Yep. Amazing. And any last words as well? I know we're coming up on the hour. It's also Sunday that we're recording this. And so I appreciate both of you on evening on a Sunday they're doing this. Any last pieces of advice or any other perspectives you want to share before we wrap everything up?
follow your instinct. You'll be all right. I mean, there's tough times in any part of business. Once you get through the tough times, navigate, it'll be all right. Like I said, it comes back to being a competitor. If you're a competitor, you're going to win.
I would just add, look in the mirror. How are you showing up to life? Are you showing up to your business the exact same way? Are you taking care of your health? You're not good from the inside, you're not going to be good with your output. So I think make sure you're in check there. Any bad habits, anything holding you back, you're out of shape, care of your appearance, all of that reflects on your output. And that's completely your life, not just in business.
There's a quote that goes, wherever you go, there you are. And, another version of it is, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So love that. Cool. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. Zach and Dalton, this was a fun conversation. Again, it's such incredible growth in such a short period of time. And I know that for a lot of the young guys who might be listening to this, they'll be very inspired. And for those who've been in the industry for, let's say, 10, 15 years, maybe this is the kick in the butt that they need in order to really get things into gear. So with that, thank you everyone for tuning into the podcast. Definitely hit up those action items. And with that, we'll close it up and we'll catch you on the next episode. All right, take care everyone, and we will chat soon. All right, bye everyone.
Thank you for joining us for the HVAC Financial Freedom Podcast. Follow us on StreamYard, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Amazon Music, and check out our main website, www.hvacfinancialfreedom.com, to find out how you can also achieve financial freedom.